6:12 a.m. over the Gulf of Aden. The sky is still a dull gray, the sea below a flat sheet of metal, quiet, indifferent. Inside the cockpit of a US Navy MH-60R Seahawk, everything feels routine. The engines hum with a steady vibration. The rotors beat a slow, confident rhythm. It is just another security patrol over one of the world's most dangerous shipping lanes. Until, in the space of a heartbeat, the morning is ripped open. Beep, beep! Taking fire! Taking fire! The warning tone screams through the headsets. Red-orange streaks rip past the windshield, glowing tracers clawing up from the water. Down below, a tiny fiberglass skiff kicks up white spray as it jerks across the waves. On that flimsy boat, 5 men are firing wildly into the sky, AK-47s bucking against their shoulders. In the middle of the skiff, one of them rises unsteadily to his feet, bracing a long tube on his shoulder. A battered RPG-7 launcher pointed straight at the helicopter. In an instant, the calm, steady patrol is gone. The Seahawk snaps into a hard bank. The horizon spins. The gray sea tilts up the front windscreen as the pilot hauls the aircraft into an evasive climb. Bullets ping off the fuselage with sharp metallic cracks, like hailstones hitting a car roof. The crew can't see the individual rounds, but they can hear them. They can feel the vibration as each impact rings through the airframe. There is no warning call on the radio. No shouted threat from the skiff. No demand. No ultimatum. No chance for negotiation. The first and only message from the pirates is the flash of muzzle fire and the hiss of tracers reaching for the helicopter. 5 men in a plastic boat have just made the most reckless decision of their lives. They have opened fire on a United States Navy aircraft. And this is the story of the price they are about to pay for those 10 reckless seconds. To understand just how insane that decision is, you have to see the two sides facing each other on this invisible ocean battlefield. On one side is that 7-meter skiff. The paint is peeling, the hull is scarred and patched. At the stern, an aging Yamaha outboard coughs and roars as it tries to push the boat over the low morning swells. The 5 men on board are Somali, their faces burned dark by years of sun and salt. Their clothes are worn, mismatched, thrown together from whatever they can find. Their weapons are relics, Chinese Type 56 AK-47s with cracked wooden stocks, an old PKM machine gun lashed to the bow, and that single RPG-7 launcher with a couple of warheads that may be older than the men holding them. Behind the barrels and bravado, their real fuel is hunger and desperation. In villages along this coast, legal work barely feeds a family. One hijacked tanker, one ransom paid out in US dollars, can change not just a year of someone's life, but an entire generation. So, a fiberglass boat, some rusty Soviet-era rifles, and a second-hand engine become their ticket to a dangerous lottery. High risk, but life-changing reward. On the other side of the fight, a few miles away, is a completely different world. The guided missile destroyer USS Mason, hull number DDG-87, carves slowly through the same waters. 9,200 tons of steel, electronics, and firepower. To the casual eye, she is just a gray warship on the horizon. But inside her hull sits a digital fortress. The Aegis combat system searches the sky and sea, scanning hundreds of contacts at once. In the Combat Information Center, sailors stand over banks of glowing screens, tracking everything from harmless fishing dhows to potential missile threats. The Seahawk, circling overhead, is Mason's eye in the sky, Saber 71 is more than just a helicopter. It is a flying sensor suite, a command node, and a gun platform, all rolled into one. Its radar can pick out small boats at miles of distance. Its FLIR camera can see the heat of a human body through haze and spray. Its door guns can put precise bursts of 7.62mm rounds into the water within meters of a moving target. Its pylons can carry Hellfire missiles, weapons designed to erase tanks and hardened bunkers, never mind a 20-foot skiff. So, on this morning over the Gulf of Aden, the matchup looks like this. A plastic boat held together by hope and duct tape versus a destroyer and its helicopter, backed by satellites, drones, intelligence networks, and an entire carrier strike group on call. This is not a fair fight. This is asymmetric warfare in its purest form. Raw desperation pointing rifles at precision-engineered discipline. But to really grasp why the Navy is even here in the first place, and why a few shots from a skiff trigger such a swift, serious response, you have to zoom out from the gunfire and look at the map. The Gulf of Aden is a narrow stretch of water connecting the Arabian Sea to the Red Sea, and from there to the Suez Canal and the Mediterranean. It is one of the planet's great maritime choke points. Every day, supertankers loaded with Middle Eastern crude, container ships stacked with electronics, food, and consumer goods, LNG carriers moving liquefied natural gas, all of them squeeze through this corridor. It is estimated that around 10% of global seaborne oil and close to 8% of the world's total trade by volume pass through these waters. If a major shipping company decides this route is too dangerous, if repeated attacks force traffic to divert around the Cape of Good Hope at the bottom of Africa, the consequences are enormous. Transit times jump from weeks to more than a month. Fuel bills skyrocket. Insurance premiums explode. Within a short time, the price of gasoline at a gas station in Texas or Germany creeps up. Food, electronics, everything that depends on shipping gets more expensive. A handful of men with rifles on a small boat can't change the world by themselves, but they can nudge it in a very painful direction. That is why warships like USS Mason are on station here. They're not just babysitting one tanker under a Liberian flag that happens to be passing through this morning. They are guarding the arteries of the global economy, making sure that the flow of oil and goods through this narrow passage never stops. Their presence sends a quiet but powerful message. These waters are watched, these lanes are protected, and anyone who tries to turn this ocean highway into a hunting ground will have to answer to more than their old rifles can handle. So when 5 pirates in a skiff decide to light up a US Navy Seahawk with AK fire and raise an RPG toward the sky, they are not just taking a shot at one helicopter. They are poking at the hard shell of a much larger system, the layered security bubble that surrounds the world's most critical shipping lanes. And as Saber 71 pulls into its defensive climb, and the first frantic calls go out to USS Mason, that system begins to wake up. The routine patrol is over. The test has begun. On board Saber 71, the cockpit is suddenly very busy, but nobody is shouting. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Mitchell's hands are already moving before her brain has time to put words to what she's seeing. The Seahawk slides into a climbing turn, nose coming up, rotor RPM steady. While she flies the aircraft, the back of the helicopter turns into a dark theater of glowing shapes and numbers. In the cabin, the sensor operator swings the FLIR turret onto the contact below. On his screen, there is no blue sea, no gray haze, no sun glare. The world is reduced to black and white and heat. The ocean is a cold, flat sheet of charcoal. The fiberglass skiff is a warmer outline cutting across it. And on that outline, 5 human figures burn bright white, their bodies radiating against the cool background like light bulbs on a dark wall. Skiff in sight, 5 packs, all hot, he reports, almost conversational. Stand by. One individual is reaching down. Long object, tube-shaped, possible RPG. Mitchell doesn't need the confirmation, but she gets it anyway. On her repeater screen, she can see the same ghostly shapes. One of the hot figures bends, reaches into the bottom of the boat, and brings up a colder, elongated shadow. The launcher itself, warming quickly as bare hands wrap around it. The operator slews in tighter. The image jitters as the helicopter banks, then stabilizes again. RPG positive, he says. Launcher on shoulder, no smoke yet. Down on the water, the pirates think the morning haze hides them. Up here, there is no haze. FLIR cuts through it. Every motion is tracked. Every weapon stands out. Mitchell knows exactly what they have, where they are, and which way they're pointing. She could already be out of here. A small push on the collective, a gentle turn, and the Seahawk would climb out of range, leaving the skiff behind. But that's not the mission.
The mission is to stay close enough to keep the tanker safe, and to make sure this little boat doesn't become a big problem. The decision is taken away from her a second later. On the FLIR screen, the pirate with the launcher stiffens. Another heat signature steps up beside him, rifle in hand. Then, almost simultaneously, the muzzle of an AK flares white-hot, and the first streaks of tracers leap upward. The sensor operator doesn't need to describe it. Everyone can see.
Mason, this is Saber
Taking fire,
71.
small arms, from skiff, the co-pilot calls, voice firm but calm. Range 800 meters and closing. Mitchell reacts on instinct. She throws the Seahawk into a steeper bank, pulling away from the rising rounds. The helicopter climbs, rotors biting into the humid air. The horizon tumbles. The tanker slides across the bottom of the windshield. The skiff pivots to the side window and then drops beneath them.
This meets the criteria for
A couple of rounds smack into the fuselage with dull clangs. Warning lights flicker for a heartbeat, then reset. No leaks, no fire, no critical damage. The aircraft can take this. Inside the helmets, nobody is panicking. Training kicks in, old and familiar. The door gunner swings his M240B out, locking it into its mount, eyes searching for the tiny, erratic speck of the skiff below. His finger rests straight along the receiver, off the trigger. There is no permission to fire. Not yet. Mitchell keys the radio. Mason, this is Saber 71, she says, every syllable level. We are taking hostile fire from a small skiff bearing 160, approximately 300 meters off tanker starboard bow. Small arms confirmed. RPG visible. No casualties. Request rules of engagement clarification. 2 miles away, inside the Combat Information Center of USS Mason, her voice arrives over the speakers. Screens that were already watching now sharpen their focus. The skiff appears as a red symbol on tactical displays. Radar tracks confirm its speed and heading. Lawyers, tacticians, and watch officers don't have time for a meeting. They have seconds. The US Navy does not fire just because it can. Every trigger pull is wrapped in legal and ethical rules called the Rules of Engagement, ROE. They define when a threat is just suspicious, when it becomes hostile intent, and when it crosses the line into a hostile act that can be answered with force. The pirates just crossed that line. Saber 71, Mason actual. The reply comes back, clipped and precise. Hostile act confirmed. You are cleared for proportional response. Repeat, proportional response authorized. In that one sentence, the dynamic in the sky changes. A moment ago, Saber 71 was a target under fire, forced to dodge and defend. Now, officially, it is the hunter. Mitchell acknowledges, then settles the Seahawk into a tight orbit above and slightly ahead of the skiff.
The tanker still plows forward, big and oblivious, but the helicopter and the destroyer are building a cage around the small boat. The FLIR operator keeps the pirates centered in his screen, watching their every move. Two of them are still firing short, panicked bursts. The man with the RPG hesitates, the launcher half-shouldered, his body language torn between fear and bravado. "Still have RPG in hand," the sensor operator says. "No launch. 2 shooters active." "Copy," Mitchell answers. "Door gunner, stand by for warning fire." The M240B's charging handle snaps back and forward with a solid mechanical clack. The gunner plants his feet, leans into the mount, and draws a bead not on the men, but on the water in front of their bow. At this range, with the sensors and the stable firing platform, he can put rounds exactly where he wants them. "Saber, guns are up," he reports. "Visual on skiff, ready." Mitchell lines up the helicopter, giving him a clean shot. The Gulf of Aden rolls slowly beneath them. The pirates are still looking up, some yelling, some gesturing, convinced that their burst of gunfire has driven the aircraft away, or daring it to come closer. "All right," she says quietly. "Warning burst, short, in the water. Send the message." The gunner squeezes the trigger. The M240B barks, a controlled 6-round burst. Inside the cabin, it feels like a deep mechanical growl. Outside, the rounds are invisible until they touch the sea. 20 meters in front of the skiff, the water explodes into a sudden line of white plumes. Spray leaps into the air higher than the pirates' heads, then crashes back down over the bow, drenching everyone on board. The sound arrives half a second later, a hard, flat slap that tells them those bullets were not far away at all. "Warning shot delivered," the gunner says calmly. "Rounds in the water ahead of the bow. No hits on personnel." On the FLIR screen, the change is instantaneous. The 2 men who were firing drop their rifles as if they've burned their hands. The one with the RPG lets the launcher fall. It clatters onto the deck and rolls toward the side. Heat signatures that were standing tall and aggressive a moment ago suddenly shrink. One pirate throws himself flat. Another raises both hands high, fingers spread. The engine note drops as the helmsman cuts throttle, and the skiff wallows, losing speed. "Targets appear to be standing down," the sensor operator reports. "Weapons on deck, hands visible, no more firing." In the span of less than 2 minutes, the fight is over, at least from the air's perspective. What began as a sudden burst of gunfire at a passing helicopter has turned into 5 soaked, terrified men on a drifting skiff, surrounded by the rotor wash of a very patient, very capable machine that chose not to kill them when it easily could have. The message has landed as clearly as the rounds in the water. "We see you. We can hit you whenever we choose. This time, you get a warning. Next time, you might not." From a distance, the scene now looks almost frozen. A single skiff dead in the water, 5 men kneeling or sitting with their hands up, a massive tanker plowing past at reduced speed, and 1 gray helicopter carving slow circles overhead. But if you zoom in on Saber 71, you realize this isn't just a helicopter orbiting a boat. It's a flying data center, a combat system with rotors. The MH-60R Seahawk is often described as a multi-mission helicopter. That sounds bland. In reality, it's a compact monster of sensors and weapons. Under its belly sits a radar dome housing a modern maritime radar. In one mode, it can sweep the sea surface and pick out tiny contacts, fishing buoys, periscopes, or a wooden skiff trying to hide among a cluster of boats at ranges measured in dozens of miles. In another mode, it can track low-flying missiles or fast attack craft sprinting toward a convoy. On a good day, that radar can spot the thin shadow of a submarine periscope at distances that would have been science fiction a generation ago. Bolted to the nose is the FLIR turret, the same sensor that just painted 5 pirates as bright white silhouettes. It doesn't care about camouflage, paint schemes, or early morning haze. It sees heat. Human bodies, freshly fired weapons, hot engine blocks, they all stand out on its screen. Even if the pirates had tried to kill their lights and drift in the dark, Saber 71 would still have seen them as clearly as if they were standing in a spotlight. Inside the cabin, that sensor data doesn't stay on a single display. It feeds into the helicopter's mission computer, gets tagged with GPS coordinates, headings, speeds, and then, this is the crucial part, gets transmitted via encrypted data link back to USS Mason. Every time the FLIR operator moves his crosshairs, the ship sees what he sees. When he marks the skiff as a hostile contact, Mason's tactical display updates instantly. That means those 5 men in the skiff were never really fighting one helicopter. From the first burst of tracers, they were up against an entire destroyer's combat system: Aegis, radar, electronic warfare suites, watch officers, and now a ready VBSS team suiting up down on the ship's main deck. And we haven't even talked about the weapons Saber 71 didn't use. Hanging from the pylons under its stub wings, the Seahawk can carry AGM-114 Hellfire missiles, laser-guided, high-explosive weapons built to drop tanks, shred armored vehicles, or turn a fast attack craft into scrap. Each missile rides in on a laser spot, hitting with terrifying precision. A single Hellfire against a 20-foot skiff would be like bringing a sledgehammer to a glass table. Mitchell could have requested that option. With ROE cleared and an RPG visible, nobody would have called it unreasonable. One missile, one impact, one cloud of debris, and there would be no pirates left to interrogate, no skiff left to board. But that isn't what happens today. Instead, the Seahawk uses the lightest tool in its toolbox, a 6-round warning burst, to solve the immediate problem, and leaves the heavy metal hanging under its wings as a silent reminder of what could have been used if the situation escalated. That restraint isn't weakness, it's strategy. While Saber 71 holds its orbit, USS Mason begins the second act of the response, putting boots on the water. On the destroyer's boat deck, sailors of the VBSS teams visit, board, search, and seizure, snap on life vests, plate carriers, and helmets. They've drilled this evolution hundreds of times in calm seas and rough weather. Today is no different, except that somewhere out there is a skiff full of men who were shooting at their ship's helicopter a few minutes ago. 2 RHIBs, rigid-hull inflatable boats, are swung out and lowered into the water on davits. Their outboard engines roar to life, white wakes sprayed behind them as they peel away from the destroyer's gray hull. Each carries a small team: helmsman, coxswain, a team leader, and several sailors armed with M4 carbines and sidearms. Some carry less lethal options as well, but today the rifles are very real, the magazines full. Overhead, Saber 71 calls out courses and ranges, guiding them in. Rib 1, Rib 2, Saber 71. Target skiff is bearing 160 from tanker, range 600 meters, speed 0. 5 personnel on board, currently compliant, weapons on deck. You are cleared to approach. From sea level, the skiff looks larger, closer, more human. The pirates' faces are visible now, eyes wide, expressions a mixture of fear and resignation. The warning burst did its job. None of them are holding weapons. The RPG lies abandoned near the bow. An AK is half submerged in bilge water sloshing in the bottom of the boat. The VBSS team doesn't take that at face value. As the ribs close to 100 meters, rifles come up, optics trained on the skiff. Laser rangefinders flicker. The team leader raises a bullhorn. Small boat. This is United States Navy, he shouts, first in English, then in carefully memorized Somali phrases. Keep your hands where we can see them. Do not move. Do not touch the weapons. The skiff's helmsman obeys instantly, lifting his hands high. The others follow, one by one, until all 5 men are facing outward with their palms visible. The ribs split, one swinging to the skiff's port quarter, the other to the starboard bow, trapping it in a pincer that leaves no escape route. Closing to 20 meters, one coxswain reports. No hostile movement. Weapons remain on deck. At 10 meters, engines throttle back. The sea slaps against inflatable tubes as the ribs match the skiff's slow drift. 2 sailors vault across the gap, boots landing solidly on the fiberglass deck. Their rifles stay trained, barrels steady, fingers straight and off the triggers but ready.
Show me your hands! 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 They shout, even though the pirates' hands are already up. It isn't about drama. It is about muscle memory, fixed commands that leave no room for misunderstanding. Zip ties snap around wrists. One by one, each pirate is moved to the center of the skiff, knees on the deck, eyes down. Another pair of sailors begins the search, quick but methodical. Weapons are cleared and set aside. Magazines are ejected. Safety pins are checked. A GPS unit is pulled from beneath a tarp. A satellite phone is found in a pocket. A backpack yields a small tangle of handheld radios and spare batteries. Within 90 seconds, the boarding is over. No shots fired, no injuries, no shouting beyond the necessary commands. For the VBSS team, this isn't a fight. It's an arrest, carried out not on a city street, but on a patch of open ocean under the rotors of Saber 71. The pirates are split between the 2 RHIBs, separated so they can't coordinate stories. Their boat is tagged with a GPS beacon and left to drift for now. Chain of custody tags go on every weapon, every piece of equipment. Everything will be photographed and logged once they're back aboard Mason. From a tactical point of view, the operation is almost boring, exactly how the Navy likes it. The rules of international law are followed. The use of force stays at the minimum required level, and nobody ends up bleeding on the deck. But if you stop the story here, 5 pirates captured, 1 skiff neutralized, you miss the real power of what just happened. Because in modern conflict, sometimes the most valuable thing you take from a battlefield isn't territory or even prisoners. It's data. Back aboard USS Mason, the detainees are led below decks to a secure space, but the attention of the ship's intelligence specialists is on the pile of gear laid out on a long table. The RPG and AK-47s will eventually be destroyed or locked away as evidence. The real treasure sits in the electronics. The GPS units, the satellite phone, the cheap handheld radios tuned to specific frequencies, even the SIM cards from battered cell phones recovered from pockets. Once these devices are powered up in a controlled environment, or in some cases carefully kept powered down to preserve data, they become windows into the pirates' world. The GPS units store waypoints, launch beaches, rendezvous points, maybe even the coordinates of previous attacks. The satellite phone keeps a history of calls, which numbers dialed them with instructions, which contacts they called before and after leaving shore. Cell phones offer text messages, contact lists, photos, location histories. All of that information will be packaged up, encrypted, and transmitted up the chain, eventually landing on the desks of analysts at U.S. Central Command and other intelligence agencies. There, in air-conditioned rooms thousands of miles away, specialists will start connecting dots. They'll map out where these pirates launched from, which clan controls that stretch of coast, which middlemen in towns like Isle or Harard here supply them with fuel and weapons, which financiers in Dubai or Nairobi funnel money to pay for engines and bribes. They'll look for overlaps with other incidents, Same frequencies used, same GPS waypoints, same phone numbers appearing again and again. One small skiff can turn into a node on a much bigger network diagram, and that network can be attacked without a single shot being fired at sea. Bank accounts can be frozen. Arms shipments can be intercepted on land. Key organizers can be arrested in cities far from the coast based on patterns revealed by those salvaged devices. That is why sinking the skiff with a Hellfire would have been the easy option, and in many ways, the less effective one. 5 dead pirates and a burning boat send a message, yes, but they don't tell you who sent them, who trained them, who paid for the fuel in their tank, or the RPG on their shoulder.
5 captured pirates and a table full of electronics, on the other hand, tell a story that reaches far beyond the waves slapping against USS Mason's hull. They give the Navy and its partners something every strategist craves: leverage over the system behind the symptoms. So when you watch Saber 71 hold fire and settle for a warning burst, when you see the VBSS team move in with precision instead of brute force, you're not just seeing restraint for its own sake. You are seeing a different kind of power at work. The power to turn a 2-minute gunfight into months of intelligence, investigations, and disrupted operations. On the surface, the engagement in the Gulf of Aden ends with 5 men zip-tied on a destroyer's deck. Beneath that surface, in data centers and intel cells, the real battle is just beginning. In the end, this entire engagement lasted only a few minutes. No missiles fired, no bodies in the water. A handful of warning shots, 2 RHIBs launched, 5 men arrested, and a convoy that kept moving through one of the most dangerous stretches of ocean on Earth, as if nothing had happened. But under that calm surface lies the real lesson. What you've just seen is how the US Navy's bubble of protection works in practice. It isn't a single ship, a single helicopter, or a single weapon. It's a layered sphere of awareness and response wrapped around every high-value ship the Navy chooses to guard. On the outer edge of that bubble, satellites and long-range sensors watch shipping lanes and coastal regions, flagging suspicious patterns long before any pirate ever leaves the beach. Closer in, drones and aircraft quietly map out clusters of small boats, fishing fleets, and motherships. Inside that, destroyers like USS Mason sweep the horizon with radar and electronic ears, listening for radios, sat phones, and GPS signals that don't quite fit. And at the very core of the bubble, closest to the ships that actually carry the world's fuel and cargo, platforms like Saber 71 are constantly in motion, circling, scanning, ready to shift from surveillance to action in seconds. 5 men in a skiff thought they were taking a shot at a lone helicopter. In reality, they were firing into that entire network. The moment tracers left their barrels, they triggered a chain reaction. ROE reviews, weapons coming to readiness, RHIB teams launching, intel collectors preparing to rip apart every byte of data on their devices. That is the real deterrent. Not the noise of the gun, but the certainty of the response. For pirates, smugglers, or anyone else tempted to test that bubble, the message is simple. You might get off a few rounds, you might even scare a crew for a moment, but you will not win. The system that surrounds those ships is bigger than your boat, faster than your engine, and smarter than your plan. You're not just picking a fight with a helicopter. You are challenging a machine built and refined over decades, designed specifically to make sure global shipping does not stop. And yet, there is another side to this story. Notice what the Navy didn't do. They didn't answer rifle fire with missiles. They didn't turn a skiff into splinters just because they legally could. Instead, They used the minimum force needed to end the threat, then turned the rest of the engagement into an opportunity to gather intelligence and dismantle the network behind it. Professionals, not avengers. That distinction matters. So here's the question I want to throw to you. Do you think the US rules of engagement in piracy zones are too soft or exactly right? Should a Navy helicopter be allowed to sink a boat the moment it spots an RPG pointed in its direction? No warning, no second chances? Or is the current approach, warning fire, capture, intelligence exploitation, the smarter long-term play, even if it looks gentle in the heat of the moment? Tell me what you think in the comments. If you were in that Seahawk cockpit, or on the bridge of USS Mason, what would you want the ROE to say? Fire first to deter future attacks? Or hold back, control the escalation, and use every engagement as a chance to map the network behind the trigger puller? Your opinion here isn't just armchair talk. This debate shapes real policies, real missions, and real lives on both sides of the gun. And if you've stayed with me all the way through this breakdown, you're exactly the kind of mind we want in the conversation. Because this is Warfare Decoded. We don't just replay the footage. We peel back the layers, the tactics, the technology, the human decisions under pressure, and the strategic messages hidden behind a few seconds of gunfire on a quiet morning sea. If you want more real-world engagements dissected like this, more pirate hunts, submarine close calls, air intercepts that almost went wrong, make sure you hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and stay inside the bubble with us. In the next episode, we're heading underwater. A Russian nuclear submarine surfaces in the middle of a NATO exercise, right where it absolutely shouldn't be. Was it an accident, a mechanical failure, or a deliberate signal sent in the oldest language of great powers? Silent steel rising through dark water. We're going to break that encounter down frame by frame. Don't miss it. This is Warfare Decoded. Thanks for watching, and stay sharp.